Hey guys, welcome back to the 5th episode in my C# tutorial series. Today we're going to be talking about the for each loop. And the for each loop is a very simple type of loop, simpler than the for loop, which I covered in my last video. And basically the whole purpose of the for each loop is so that you can iterate through a chunk of code based on how many items are in a collection. So what is a collection? Well, it could be a list, it could be an array, it could be a hash set, it could be a dictionary, it could be any type of collection. It's very, very flexible. So just for starters, I'll go ahead and write the syntax of the for each loop. Now, we remember from the last video that the for loop is for int I equals 0, blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of setup. But with the for each loop, it's quite literally for each. Typically you see var or the type. So for each type name in name of collection. So for example, it could be like this: for each var num in numbers, if I have a list of numbers called numbers. And this is the example we'll start with today. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a simple array of numbers. So we have an int array called numbers equals new int array, and then we can declare some numbers. So let's have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now down here we can declare our for each loop. So for each keyword, oops, that is not how you spell for each. For each var num, or in this case we could do int num, but var is usually the easiest. For each var num in numbers, and then we just have our open and close braces. And now we can have whatever code we want down here, but it will execute it. So we have 5 numbers here, so it'll execute it 5 times. Now we also have declared this var num. So this var num we can actually manipulate in our for each loop and do whatever we want with it. So let's say this was actually like a user account in your program, and user had all these properties like user.email, user.address, and let's say you needed to update the database. So you have a ton of users, just bear with me for a sec. You could say something like this, database.update user.address, just hypothetically. That is a perfect example of when you would want to use a for each loop. We're not, the reason why we're not going to use a for loop for this is because it's quite simpler to use a for each and access this variable that we declare in our for each, instead of saying something like, with the for loop for int I equals 0, I is less than users or whatever dot length I plus plus, and then we would have to access users I dot and then address. We don't really want to be doing that. It's just much easier to manipulate this variable. So now that we have declared our for each, we can just do something really simple. We can do console.writeLine num and see what that gives us. Oh, forgot my console.readline. It'll do that to you. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Easy peasy. Now, this could be as simple or as complex as you want it. The purpose of this tutorial is to just give the most bare bones introduction to these these types of loops or collections or whatever I cover in each video, and then you can go off on your own and play around with them. But I'll just do one more example. So I'll go ahead and comment this out, highlight, Control-K, Control-C, and let's make a string array collection, or we'll make a list of string. So let's do this: var my strings equals new list string. Okay. And we don't need those. So let's do this. Let's do apples, bananas, and oranges. So in our for each loop, for each var fruit, we can actually rename this to fruits. I'm just coming up with this stuff on the fly. For each fruit in fruits, maybe we want to write out, let's see, maybe we want to write out the count of the characters in each fruit, okay? So we could do this. We can console.writeLine, $ for string interpolation, which means we can recall variables using open and closed braces inside of the string. Very, very handy. And remember, we're not going to be accessing this directly. We're just going to be accessing this fruit element. In this case, it's a string, but it could actually be, you know, an object with properties, hypothetically, such as weight, color, whatever. Now we can console.writeLine. Let's say we want to count how many characters are in the fruit and what fruit has that many characters. So we can just console.writeLine. We can say fruit because it's just a string, and then fruit dot should be length. Yep, because strings are really just array of characters, and length is just calling how many characters are inside of the string. So let's see what that gives us. And of course, I need my console.readLine. Don't want to forget that twice. Awesome. So we see that apples it actually has 6 characters, and then bananas and oranges have 7 characters. So the whole point of this example was just to show you that you can modify and access the properties within this newly declared variable. So for each loops are super, super handy. Very, very quick rundown on how they work. But, you know, of course, this can be as complicated as you want, or, you know, however complicated your application needs these loops to be. So yeah, that's about it for this video, guys. I hope you learned something, and feel free to leave any comments or questions down below and I'll check them out. So yeah, have a great rest of your day, guys, and thanks for watching. Bye bye.